Hello YouTubers. Well, I spent a interesting day with my biker grandson the other day, and we looked at a new bike that he'd bought, a very old bike which he just wants to mess about with because we just like taking things to pieces and see how they work. And a lot of people have asked me about my motorcycling days, and so I'm going to put up this little video which will appeal to a few people, but that's here we go. I'll see you again very soon. Goodbye. Wow, so this is the new beast. What is it?
A Honda CR125.
CR125 motocross. Wow, well, you've got to be a giant to get on these things. The ground clearance it's got and all this suspension movement. So what have you bought this beast for then?
Mucking about on the farm.
Mucking about on the farm, right. Well, you bought it seen and not tried, so you know it's got a lot of faults, and that's the project, I suppose, to see if you can find out what the faults are and put them right. Great. Well, it's a bit different from your other Kawasaki whatever, but you should have fun. So, good luck. Strip the engine out, and you're now trying to locate the faults. The original fault was that it was stuck in gear, and you have found that fault, so I can't see too many problems ahead. I like to see this stuffed in the crankcase. I remember teaching you that whenever you take a barrel off, make sure you don't drop anything in the crankcase in case you've got to split the whole lot. So this is a 125 two-stroke. Two-strokes are very difficult to, without diagrams, to explain how they work. Perhaps the best thing might be to go back to very basics and talk about the internal combustion engine and what it does and how it works. Well, let me think. Well, the petrol internal combustion engine works by sucking in its fuel in one stroke, compressing it in the next stroke, firing it, and then exhausting the gas through mechanical valves. Sort of in the rough trade we call that suck, squeeze, bang, blow. And so if you read magazines and you say, oh, this boat's got a lot of bang, that's what it means, it's got a lot of power. But a two-stroke is very much different. Those four strokes of the piston have got to be, all those induction, compression, ignition and exhaust have got to be achieved within two strokes, which means that, as in this barrel, if you can you focus on that to see anything of that exhaust port? Is that anything any good? Well, basically a two-stroke, you'd recognise it because it's got ports or holes in the cylinder, and the big problem is that when it takes its fuel in, it's got to ignite it and then exhaust it through these exhaust ports. But one of the problems is that whilst the waste gas is going out, the new gas is coming in, and you don't want the two to mix. So there have been all sorts of clever ways to avoid that, but one of the things on this particular model is that it has a, what would you call it, Scott? A power valve?
Yeah, they call it the automatic torque amplification chamber.
Right.
It's an exhaust volume changing device that's mounted on the cylinder.
Yeah, and if I'm right, what that does is that it alters the volume of the exhaust system so that the reverse pulses that come back from the end of the exhaust pipe will come back and prevent the escape of too much of that inlet gas that's coming in at the same time. Would that be a reasonable description? Yeah. So I hope that it's going to work for you. When I look at the barrel, I can see that there is no inlet hole for the gas to come in. There are other holes which are called transfer ports, which transfer the gas from the crankcase up on top of the piston, and therefore, well, I know that your particular carburettor will get its fuel in straight into the crankcase. Is that right? Yeah. And it's an ordinary carburettor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Be interesting to know what size that was, because this is a motocross bike, and they're meant to go very quick. So you've got to get as much fuel in as you can, but of course you've got to burn it efficiently. So I think it'll go like stink, and I hope you'll have a lot of fun.